A warm welcome back to the Information Security Stack, together with me, Daniel Gustafsson, and Kim Hindart.
Hubba.
Today, Kim, we are going to continue to talk about new data breaches and data leaks and oopsies within GDPR. Today, in Swedish newspapers, there was a Swedish municipal county who, at this time, are using Office 365. Now, that's not really relevant to the story. They are using international cloud services such as Office 365, and they host all their email in that system, as many people do. Also, they host the mail for the local fire department, and they in return also, because in this specific city, which is called Karlskrona, where I live, we have a lot of military as well. So there were connections between the fire department and the service people there, and the military information that was handled in that as well. So that we have a municipal county, a fire department, and a connection to Swedish military. And the problem is that the fire department was not informed quick enough or fast enough by the municipal county that they were actually using Office 365 for their email either. So they had not been able to do a proper risk assessment. And now we are in a situation where I guess no one knows what to do other than realize that this is probably a problem. Your take?
Yeah, so if you're any type of public agency of any kind, you should be really careful with transferring to third countries. And believe me, as soon as you use Office 365, you cannot get away from that. This will be a transfer to a third country. We have an earlier episode where we discussed this about what constitutes a transfer, and it doesn't need to be that you actually move or copy the data somewhere. Just by granting access to a subcontractor, and in this case, it's Muffins, that's the subcontractor.
Mm.
And that just constitutes a third country transfer in this sense. And yeah, like the article and the story about this episode says, the chief of security at the Karlskrona county said that you should never use email with any other type of information that you would put on a postcard.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have that policy, yes, fine. That type of information is perfectly fine to use, even if it exposes to transfers to a third country. It's still hard to get away from it being personal data. Because, email accounts tend to be personal.
Yes.
So they can be traced directly to a living individual.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy dangerous to assume that you can, with a soft policy, say to people, don't use any sensitive data in your email.
That's a struggle,
hard.
right? It's a struggle.
Because processing email correctly in that fashion is a real struggle, because you get stuff into your email.
Yeah, people send things to you.
Send to you. So
even if you are captain sensitive, people still tend to send you stuff.
And this is the problem, because just receiving stuff is perfectly fine from a GDPR point. You're all clear as long as you receive stuff. And yeah, okay, you cannot block people sending you stuff. That's one thing. What you do with it after that, that's another issue. And then you're totally liable for any type of processing that happens after that. And that's an issue. And this is crazy hard to do. So it will become personal data very fast. If you are a public service agency, like the local county and municipality, I mean, let's get real. You will end up in sensitive data faster than you can say poof. Faster you can say maybe muffins.
Yes.
you will end up with sensitive data, because I understand that you have the fire department that's part of the civil contingency defense.
Yes.
This is national security people.
Mm-hmm.
This is things they talk to people and employees within the military base.
Mm.
This is probably the third most classified military base we have in Sweden.
Yeah, because
only the headquarters and the research institution is more classified than this one. But this is the base for the Swedish submarine fleet. So yeah, it's pretty high class.
So just to paint a picture for people who does not know about Karlskrona in southeast corner of Sweden, we have in our little city the largest naval warfare base we have in Sweden. A couple of miles from here as well, we also have an airport which holds a part of our Air Force department. So this is a very military heavy centric area in Sweden. And of course, our fire department is in communication with the military and so on, and hence this is connection to the council.
And the municipality have, of course, contact with military staff because they live in Karlskrona.
They do.
And all of a sudden, we're talking national security interests.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking the Public Secrecy Acts and stuff like this. So you end up in all kinds of problems. So I think that this problem will end up biting the local county a lot harder from a national security and privacy sense than it will from a GDPR sense, actually.
Yeah.
But
they run the risk of we'll see what this turns out to. It's not a good look. PR wise, it's not a good look.
And this just emphasized the problem with switching your mail, how you deliver mail is tricky if that starts to include transfers to third countries. That will become tricky because you need to do a hell of a lot of risk assessment.
They do.
And if there's something they know that they have failed in, is making correct risk assessments. And that can be a GDPR transgression by itself. So that will be something they will look at. But yeah, at least from that point, they will end up with because they didn't make the correct risk assessments before changing.
No, and according to this article, the fire department wasn't notified until 4 months after the switch was actually made. They were using this email platform. So that means the whole consent bit between stakeholders have not been cleared either. The stakeholders have not been able to either give their consent and, to your point, do a proper risk assessment. So there's that to it as well. And all the users in the database.
And GDPR is very clear on that topic. You need to do a data impact assessment. You need to have a risk assessment properly made before. And this is something. So yeah. So no, you're not allowed to change stuff and alter it and expose stuff to transfers to third countries without the stakeholders, current users having a say in that. That's also very clear in GDPR. So.
But if we lift our nose a little bit from this specific case, I mean, this municipal county is not the only one using American mail services in Sweden. We know that for a fact. There are several others out there. Don't we just run the risk now of seeing this in the newspaper more and more frequently, not only in Sweden, but in other European countries as well?
Yeah, I'm for sure think that the public sector will be the first one. Heavily under scrutiny by this. You will see this I mean, like we mentioned, we had the podcast called GDPR Pod before, where we dedicated solely for discussing GDPR, and we had every intention of making the information security stack about information security, and not just about GDPR. But here we are.
Last 4 weeks has been nothing but GDPR.
No, because there's a case after case after case where people fail. And to be constructive and give some advice, don't bet on a soft policy that people don't make mistakes with your email. Email is begging for hurt in that sense. So yes, have soft policies and training as well, but do some invest in some technical security measures as well. That's the thing. If you have the option as a public organization, why expose yourself to third country transfers when you don't need to? Why? I never really understood this. Yeah, in a sense, I understand it, but then we are talking about other sensitive stuff I don't have any factual proof of, corruption and stuff, and I don't really want to accuse people of
No, I mean,
of that.
no.
But anyway, why expose yourself to the risk of transfers to third countries when you don't have to, when there are suppliers within your own country, within the EU that are safe, within countries that have been approved by the European Commission, that hasn't been overruled by the European Court of Justice. So, I mean, there are a lot of options out there. I'm just saying you can select an option that doesn't expose you to the transfer to third countries, in a sense. And at least that problem gets away. But that said, don't bet on a soft policy when it comes to email. That was just begging for someone to make a mistake, and then you end up with
that's a rough way to go.
So you need to include some type of technical security measures as well in this. So yeah, that's also something.
And let's stop using the argument that the law is working against us in this part as well. I'm actually starting to get a bit fed up and tired with that whole notion that because of the laws that are working against us, we cannot continue to do what we have always been doing for the last 30 years. The laws right now are in favor of the people and the people living in your councils, in your countries within the EU. That's the whole idea with the GDPR as a law. That should be something that we should promote, not say that it's a bad law working against our unwillingness to change. And I said it out loud, and you can think whatever you want about that, but that is regarding the unwillingness to change. It's the reason why we are angry and fed up and claiming that the law is working against us. I know you have the notion of saying that we are actually in a situation right now where companies and counties and countries are claiming that public companies' business policies should be in ruling favor over countries' protection laws of their citizens.
I mean, yeah, of course, people argue to me and say, but what the Nazis did in concentration camps was also legal. Yes, that's perfectly fine. There's difference between laws between a Nazi state and between a democratic state. But that's why we have the EU, who are actually a gathering of democratic nations. And let's not forget that GDPR comes from human rights. And I don't know, but I feel that human rights is something that's good to look after, I think. So that's why. And that's the sad part, because when all things are said and done, let's take Muffins, for example. The directors at Muffins, the owners of Muffins, have real estate all over the world. They can relocate to within the EU tomorrow. And then a lot of the issues they are exposing to transfer to third country wouldn't be an issue anymore. Why aren't they doing that? Because they don't want to, because the US government doesn't like that. They don't like to lose control. So, yeah. The second part is they can allow for a type of self-hosting. They can have a data trustee model. They've had this business model before, and it's worked fine. In Germany, they use this. So it's a sole matter of business strategy that they claim should overrule. We should adapt our laws and our protection of human rights in order to accommodate their business strategy. Okay, does that really make a lot of sense? Because let's be really, really clear. A big corporate entity is not a democracy.
Nope.
A country, a nation that's democratically founded, that has a democratic process, that's a democracy. A big a big company with a lot of majority shareholders, that's not a democracy.
No, someone is ruling over someone else. Yes.
Yeah, that's very much a ruling hierarchy in that sense. So no.
And I mean, you could lift the argument from the provider side and the IT provider side. And my God, are we supposed to adapt our service to 76 different countries and 76 different viewpoints on how our service should be used? That's extremely hard. That's extremely is not. We cannot streamline a service to work in that way. And I can absolutely agree that no, it's tough to streamline a service that way. But yes, it is us as providers who has to adapt to the local law where we want to sell our product. It should not be the other way around.
No, and I mean, this is nothing strange. This is something you do in car sales. This is something you do with anything you sell, pretty much. So yeah, no. So make no mistake about it. It's just their business strategy that now prevents them from adapting to our laws, and not the other way around. And they're expecting us to change our laws to accommodate their business strategy. So yeah, that's also a point.
But it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the future here, because once, as we said before, this is not going to be the last case, and there's going to be more, and we're going to see more of this in the newspapers. And once again, coming back to, should we not just take the stance of trying to change instead, and maybe be taking the lead of that specific change? Even though it is hard to change your behavior, we know that's tough. But at the same time, why not be the council, or be the country, or be the company who takes charge in take a lead in actually seeing what is a viable option here? What could we actually do? And even though it might take time, because it's going to take time, it's not going to be done overnight. But my God, that PR statement is a heck of a lot stronger than being next poster boy in your local newspaper.
You have the chance now to take hold of a topic that will be big. Imagine that you're in the early stages of climate change. If we go back 10 years, there wasn't much discussion about climate change as something really important. Now you have Dieselgate in order to accommodate that. So I mean, people take it seriously now, at least. So from a PR point, you have the chance to be an inspiration as well. So why just wait for the bad news and for the shooter up? You can be something that you take charge and take lead. And say, we know this is not good, this is not perfect, so we are willing to make the change. Let's try this and see.
So there is that opportunity here. I think it's a golden opportunity. If you have any questions regarding the topics we discuss in this podcast, you can reach us at citynetwork.eu/podcast. But for today, Kim, let's call it the wrap.
How about?